Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Media Boss Live. I know it's been a minute. You haven't seen me in a while. Did you miss me? I hope so. This is Dr. Barrett Matthews. I want to welcome you here to Media Boss Live. If this is your first time here, what is Media Boss Live? I am Dr. Barrett Matthews, and I have spent years and years of my life and my career. I know I look young, but I'm not as young as I may look. In the media, I've worked in media. I've worked for national, for international news programs, and worked for TV programs for sports as well, and worked in radio, worked even consulted on some film before. But what I do is I promote media with my business. And I help you become an industry icon in your field by using media to leverage that to help you to be that go-to person that people need to find. And I do that through my company, Media Boss Pro. If you would like to find out more about what we do at Media Boss Pro, then I suggest that you actually maybe go to our website and check us out at MediaBossPro.com, MediaBossPro.com. You can also check us out on our social media as well and find out more about us. Now, what we do here is I find people who are doing different things within media or using media in some form for their business and to help others. And I bring them here for you to share with you. And I think sometimes they bring some value. So I think that you might want a little bit of the value too. So I want to just let you all know that. Now, the one thing before I bring on my guest today, I want to let you guys know that I would love it, love it, love it if you would share this out, if you would let everyone know that you're watching Media Boss Live here. I would also love it if you would go to whichever social media platform you're watching on, whether it be YouTube, whether it be LinkedIn, whether it be Facebook, whatever. Leave some comments, ask some questions, and we can get back to those questions after the live stream, and we can get to that. How about that? Okay, fair, fair. All right, now my guest today, I got to tell you, I met this man actually a couple of years ago in Florida at a podcasting conference, Podfest, and it's been a pleasure ever since that I met him because he is one of the funniest people. Now, when he's handling business, he's about his business. He is about his business. But I have to tell you, I was with him again this past January, and he had me crying laughing. It was, I'm not going to have him do what he did. You all may not like that, but I got to tell you that he is a funny, funny person. So, but what he does in business is he can make it so I like my media. He helps you to be more visible online because I'm going to let him tell you how he can do that, but he makes it so you can be found by those people. So I'm going to bring out, without any further ado, all the way from Mexico City, Mr. Alan Shea. Alan, how you doing, man? Welcome to Media Boss Live.
Hi, how's it going?
Doing pretty good, man. How you doing over there?
Good, good. I mean, sunny day here, but I'm
Isn't that kind
excited.
of the
I'm
norm? Isn't that like
what's
the norm?
that?
Isn't there always sunny days there?
Ooh, I don't know. I don't know. We have rainy seasons,
You have rainy
and then we have
seasons. Right.
we do. So
But,
no, it's
but
sunny.
we're about to get into winter here soon, so you don't really get what we get here.
Although I am from New Zealand, so our winters are a bit different.
Yeah, yeah, I would have to say, and look, it also explains why you moved to Mexico City.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, I mean, I have a nephew who grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah, and he moved to Vegas because he said he didn't want to shovel anymore. So his mother, my sister, says to him, "Well, it gets cold in Vegas too." He said, "Yes, but I'm not shoveling." And that was the main thing. He said, "I can deal with the cold weather. I just don't want to be shoveling snow anymore." And I totally get
Mm.
that. The older I get, man, I totally get that. So you in Mexico City, I mean, I need to come out there and visit. And I know I've said that for a while. I'm getting closer and closer to making that happen now, because the colder it gets here, the more I want to be in Mexico. So man, tell everyone about who you are, what you do, so we can get a better understanding. We can really dig into it then.
Sure. Well, hi everyone. My name is Ellen, and Barrett has done a great name of saying my last name because that's what throws people off all the time. So, Ellen Shea. In terms of what I do, I help people build their websites, but more than that, I help them build their digital presence. And I know it's a big term, but realistically, what does that mean? Well, we help you find the right channels for your social media. We help you understand whether or not you even need a website. And most importantly, if you're a personal brand, how can we help you grow? Not just have brand deals and actually have products that you can sell. So that's what I do for my clients.
Okay, okay, cool, cool. So let me get back here and get my camera straight here. So yeah, I'm gonna switch sides here, but I want to get on that a little bit. So when do people come to you? That's the big question. I always wanted to ask when someone who does web design and web development. When should they come to you? After they've started or before they started? How does that work?
It depends. It depends where you are on your journey in your business. So I think for a lot of people, if they've already started and they already have a website, sometimes they might come to me because they need a revamp. Maybe they realize that it's not aligned with what their business is offering anymore, so they will come to me.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's at the very start, right? Recently, I helped someone launch their website and consulting. So they are a startup consultant, uh, basically a fractional COO. And so what we did was set it up for him, and it's his personal brand, but it's also his business. So yeah, it can be in different stages of their business or their journey, but I won't turn anyone away, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah. Well, okay. So you would prefer in that sense, which would you prefer? 'Cause I'm trying to help the people here when they come to you. I want to help them, so I want to make sure that they understand what you would prefer.
What do I prefer? Well, I prefer we actually sit down and ask the question whether or not you need a website. Right.
Mm.
I think oftentimes we get into this idea that we need it, and yes, we do. But I think
Hmm.
it makes a lot more sense, especially for you know small businesses, especially local businesses, to have them because it's easier for them to find. But if you're an online digital brand, or let's say you do personal branding, it
Hmm.
might not make sense to even be on, have a website. And so
Mm.
it's figuring out where you should position yourself, what's the right platform for you to be at the very beginning, and going from there, right? Because,
Uh,
for example, um, if you're already killing it online, if you're already
yeah.
doing the stuff on Instagram, LinkedIn, one of the best case studies I would say would be Lara Acosta. I know some people are watching from LinkedIn.
Hmm.
She did not have a website to begin with, but she was already doing a lot of work and she was getting a lot of traction just by LinkedIn.
Okay.
Now she does have a website now, but that's actually a landing page. I wouldn't even call that a website.
Okay. Okay. We're gonna talk about that too.
We'll
Okay.
talk about that, right? And so I think it just comes down to where are you starting? Does it make sense for you to have one? And if it does, then let's look at what that actually looks like. Is it a landing page? Is it a website? Or is it just a blog?
Okay. Okay. So Alan, now you bring up interesting question for me at least. So someone comes to you
Mhm.
and they say they want a website and they think that they need a website and you realize that they don't need one. Is that a difficult discussion with someone who really just feels they need one?
Well, if they're convinced they if they're convinced they want one or they need one,
Uh
then
huh.
obviously I'll say, yeah, sure, let's build it. But I'm not going to say no.
Right, right,
But I
right.
would tell them like, hey, I think it's better to consider whether or not you need one first. And if by the end of the conversation they're still not convinced, then let's build it, right? For me, it's more important that you're getting your return on interest where it matters, right?
Hmm.
Again, if you're already doing a good job, a good following, good retention and conversion rates from just Instagram or LinkedIn, it doesn't make sense for you to, you know, have a website that people might not even know about.
Yeah.
At least at the very beginning. I think later on when it scales, that makes a lot more sense.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me too as well. Now, as far as websites are concerned, are there different types that you go over with people as to what type of website they need? Like, is it what they're trying to accomplish? What questions do you ask the people? I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say there are different types of websites, but there are different goals. So, are you looking for are you looking to sell a product? If you are, what I always tell people to do is don't even come to me. Like just go to Shopify because
Mm,
they've been long enough in e-commerce that you can get a template, run with that, and not having any issues. If you're a service-based business, which is basically the majority that I work with,
hmm.
um, I think the most important thing is your conversion rate, right?
Right.
How do you get people from point A to point B faster? And point A is landing on your website. Point B is either booking a consultation or a demo with you so that they can get on a sales call so you can make their sales. That's the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's also, for example, blogging websites, which is something that a prospect that wanted, right? So they just want a blogging website. For them, what is more important is actually bringing traffic because they
Okay.
can attach Google AdSense to that and make a revenue.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if someone is looking to bring in more traffic, if they just want to attract more traffic to their business, to their website, and you said Google AdSense is one thing, is it a one size fits all type thing with that, or is that specific to whatever their business is?
So sorry to be clear, Google AdSense is more of when people land on your website, how does Google target ads to them? So it actually doesn't bring in traffic.
Got it. Okay.
What brings in traffic is going to be legwork. So whether it's content marketing, bringing people in, SEO,
Uh,
or
okay.
just talking about it on your YouTube or LinkedIn, for example. And so with SEO, I know most of you think it's a big word, and it is. Um, I don't pretend to be an expert in SEO. I think SEO is so broad. There's so many details.
Hmm.
But the gist of it that I like to talk to people about what SEO is imagine you're going to the library and you're checking for a book. You have a librarian, right? So that librarian is Google. And essentially what you're saying to Google is like, hey, I want to find this person. Now, do you think it's easier to find a book with more content or is it easier to find a book with less content, right? And then the other thing is, what is the title of the book? Does the title of the book actually match what you're looking for? Is the content
Hmm.
matching that?
Okay.
So SEO is quite a beast in itself. That being said, now with AI, it's kind of changing at the same time,
Yeah.
and I need to follow up on that because if you pick up your phone these days and you search something
Hmm.
on Google, you can see that there's like an AI search.
Yeah.
Even with ChatGPT, if you
Yeah.
type the force command, you do a search, it actually runs through Bing rather than Google because obviously ChatGPT is partnered with Microsoft.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting that you said that because a lot of people, first of all, they don't know what you just said there about ChatGPT, but that is something to consider when you're looking at traffic. It's the content that is that. Now, do you help with content as well?
No, but I do work with people that specialize in that.
Okay.
What I do help with on the content side is what kind of content,
Okay.
right? So Barrett, we met at Podfest, so we talk about content all the time when it comes to podcasts. I'm
Hmm.
also in the YouTube world, although I just started. But our good friend Vinay, as
Hmm.
you know,
Yes.
what we talk about is also content all the time. Like, what are the content pillars? How do you bring in people to get to know you? And I think there's something that is very important to learn that I learned actually recently is that the niche is actually you because you have a lot of topics that you want to talk about. How do you make sure that you bring them all together so it just makes sense
Yeah.
for to bring to you, right? And I think we're in a weird space right now where everyone kind of needs to be do personal branding, especially with the tech layoffs, even more so.
Yeah. Yeah.
In order for you to stand out, there's an aspect of that that you have to do.
Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. And I just was curious as to whether you did content, but like you explained that very well with the different types of content out there too, because I don't think a lot of people understand, and I'm saying this, I'm not speaking to anyone specifically, but I'm just saying I don't think a lot of people understand how important that content is. Your website can be as pretty as it can be, but if your
Oh,
content doesn't get them, yeah, it does. It's not going to matter.
yeah, yeah, that is absolutely true. So, um, one of the things that I've had to learn the hard way
Uh-huh.
that killed my ego as a designer
Mm,
is that you can, to your point, Barrett, like you can have the prettiest platform, website, whatever you want to call it, but if your content doesn't resonate, if it doesn't speak, especially if you're doing sales,
uh-huh.
which really matters when it comes to landing pages, if it doesn't resonate, if it doesn't tell the story, you're not going to convert. Like,
Right.
I'm sorry, it's just not. And to my fellow designers that might be watching, like that.
Well, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, actually, the person that did my website, I remember he came to me. He said, and he kind of had that epiphany that you were just describing. He said, "I'm going to start doing something a little different now." He said, "I'm going to
Mhm.
start designing websites based on content."
Yeah.
And that was, and I, to me, I'm that's not my field. I'm like, that's different. Okay. So I didn't know, like you just said, getting your ego out of the way. So that's very good. I like how you put that, because as a designer, I can see that. I can see that your ego, because that's what you do, and you do it well. I could see that, that your ego would be there. It should be there, to be honest with you. And now that I think about it, if you don't have an ego when you're a designer, then you're probably not that good of a designer.
Yeah, I think it's also a part of the institution. Like, in design school, they tell you like, design really matters. And we learn a lot about this, like Polisher, and some other big names that I don't remember anymore. Like, it's like you look at all the designs from back in the '80s and '90s, especially the magazines, and it's like, oh, it's fancy, it's cool. But now we're in the age of digital. It actually is more about the content because there's so much of beautiful stuff out there already. Well, what separates it is it's your personal brand, it's the content, um, and that's what really speaks to people.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. That's an excellent point there, because it's important that people know when they're doing that, that your content has to carry you. Now, in that same vein, we touched on it a little bit. How does the content differ? Well, first of all, explain the difference between a website and the landing page, and then let's talk
Sure.
about the content that has to go on the first. Let's explain the difference, if you don't mind.
What I like to talk about, well, what I like to tell people when it comes to websites and landing pages is they actually serve a different purpose. So let's start with landing pages.
Hmm.
Landing pages usually are sales pages. So you already know you're selling something, whether it's a course, whether it's a mastermind, a workshop, or a book. You know that you're selling something already, and the content is very, very specific in selling, right? And so people come to that landing page already knowing that they're going to be pushed a sales. Now, a website is the opposite. It's actually what I like to think about more as marketing. It's how do you get yourself out there? How do you get more people to know about you? And how do you, basically bring me more, bring more people to you from Google search,
Hmm.
right? So that's marketing because yes, you can be pushing a sale as well, like whether it's, your call to actions could be book a free call or book a free session, whatever it is.
Hmm.
But because it's so broad, it's more marketing. Whereas landing pages, and I've also seen this in working with clients, is that clients are willing to spend a lot more money on landing pages to make sure they look great and they read well than they
Hmm.
are on websites. Most people,
Interesting.
yeah, most people actually don't care about websites. Um, what they care about is landing pages because they know they're going to make a sale.
Yeah.
But how do I maximize that? How do I maximize my conversion rates? The other thing is landing pages are usually discovered through content marketing.
Hmm.
So for people who are listening or watching, like, you know, oftentimes when you buy a course, it's because you saw it on YouTube, you saw it on LinkedIn, or even Instagram. And
Hmm.
then you would be led to a page, which is a landing page that takes you to that sale
Hmm.
or for you to purchase that
Right.
book. Websites are different, obviously. You can also paste them on your social media, but you can also search for it with Google or a search engine.
That's really good, because I like the way you explain that. I always have over the years I've explained it to people that I said, if you needed to buy some bread, and you go, there's one side of the street that has a bread store, another side has a grocery store. Which one would you go in? If you go into the bread store, you know you're going to get bread. If you go into the
Yeah,
grocery store, you have everything at your disposal, but you may leave without getting the bread.
yeah, That's right. That's right.
because they've marketed everything to you, but they still have not sold you on what you came for. And whereas the bread, you're only going to get sold what you came for, which is bread. And
Sure.
how I've always explained it to people. See, you taught me something because, like you said, most people don't care about websites. I thought I was unique in thinking that way because I usually like landing pages more, but
Mhm.
I thought I was unique in that. And but you're telling me from an expert standpoint, yeah, most people actually do prefer landing pages. So I didn't know that.
Yeah. When I was working with this client, I told her, "Hey, like your website SEO is not done right. There are a few things that are not working." Her immediate response to me was, "I don't really care about that. I have a landing page that I need to get done, and let's get that done first. We can talk about that later." It was in that moment I realized, oh, okay, really, people really don't care about websites. They care about something that's already going to sell, right? The other thing is websites are actually a lot of work. There's a lot of copy that
Hmm.
goes to it, different pages, and going back to content,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know, it's very specific. It's super specific. You're just selling one product. Where, to your point, Barrett, like going into a supermarket, you have different products, or different aisles or different types of the same
Yeah,
product,
yeah, yeah.
right? That now you have to curate that quite a bit. And so it takes up a lot of the designer's time. It takes up a lot of the business owner's time, especially when they don't have a content writer. And that is actually one of the clients that I'm working with right now, where she can afford the designs, but she doesn't really want to pay a content creator. Well, sorry, a content writer, which, to be fair, they do cost a lot and they should be paid well.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And I agree with you. I agree with you. But you bring up another interesting point there when I think about the landing page versus the website. I'm thinking from a consumer standpoint. If I'm looking at a website, I mean, I've done this a million times. I've probably done it this week where I've gone to someone's website and I'm on there and I see all these different things and I just leave and go to another site without even. I was like, oh, you know what? I forgot to go look at that thing on the website that I went there for in the first place because something else
Yeah.
caught my eye, and then I just okay, let me go to this other site. And those of you who are watching, you're probably laughing because you're probably doing the same thing on some websites. You forget what you came there for because they had something that caught your attention and that kind of threw you off what your focus was originally. But I've done it. I mean, I've done it so many times I can't even count. And I heard someone say that the the human attention span is that of a goldfish now, to where where we stay on a website for about 7 seconds. I think that's what I heard, something like that.
Look, we're all on LinkedIn. I I see essays on there, and I'm just like, I do not have time for this.
Yeah,
I do
yeah,
not.
yeah. You're right.
Show me 5, 6 sentences, and I'm good. I'm
And
good.
give
Get to
me
the
a call
point.
to action. Yeah, yeah.
Get me there faster, right? Because I don't have time to. And like, bless their bless their heart is what we would say, right? Like, bless them. But we just don't have time to just like sit there and read about a long story where you could have done it in maybe less than 10 sentences. I'm sorry.
Well, Alan, I think that goes back to something you mentioned earlier in reference to you, but it's to them. It's ego. The only reason you have all that stuff is because of your ego. You want everyone to know all these things about you because you think it may help you, but like you said, they're not going to read it. They're not going to go that far. The average person is not really going to go that far in reading in all of your about section, your whole life story. They're not going to do it. Which is why you can have. That doesn't mean you don't have it in there, but you better have enough in those first few sentences, as you mentioned, to grab their attention, to make them interested enough to want to talk to you, or to make them want to read the whole thing. So you better grab their attention quickly, and that's a great point. Leading into my next question for you is that. So let's talk about landing pages, for instance. How do you
Mhm.
grab? What do you think is the best way to grab someone's attention quickly on a landing page?
I think it depends on the product.
Okay.
Um, so, for example, if we look at a few of like the personal brands on LinkedIn, what they like to start off with is a video, which makes sense, right? But don't overdo it.
Okay.
I've seen people with videos that are like 8 minutes. Again, I do not have time for that.
Yeah.
Show me a 2 3 minute video where that you can sell me on the transformation, and yeah, have the call to action right underneath the video that says I'm ready to buy now, and that makes more sense. If you're selling a physical product, for example, like a book,
Hmm.
which I know I have a page project that's coming up for that. Um, and then I would have the book there, right? Show people what the book looks like. Don't just
Yeah.
tell them about it. Show them a cover. If it's a course, then it's really, really based on content by that point and the
Hmm.
personal brand, right? So again, working with a client previously, she has almost 1 million followers on YouTube, and people want to see her face because they're there for her.
Got it.
And so having a face of her and then having some copy to go with that makes a lot more sense. So again, what it comes down to is copy, which is
Yeah.
the essence, I think, of landing pages.
So, do you recommend, say, if someone has a landing page and they have either a video or an image at the top, do you recommend having text above that?
Yeah, I think having like a title text would be nice just so they know what they're looking at. So, for example, hey, this is a 6 week challenge course to,
Hmm. Hmm.
again, I'm not a content writer, right?
Right. Right.
But basically, it's something that along the lines of the transformation that they're going to get,
Right. Right.
that's going to help. Yeah.
Because I've heard differing thoughts on that. Have copy that, like you said, addresses the problem that you're going to solve, or some
Mhm.
of them that just addresses the problem, saying like, "Do you need to lose weight?" or something like that. You know, whatever. So it's like, do you address the problem or do you address the solution? And that. So I was just curious, but I think that would be more of a copy question itself. But as far as I also wanted to make sure, does that go along with the design, having the text or having copy up above that image? So that's
Yeah, in terms of placement, it does make a difference.
okay.
So having a title again that is easily recognized from the get go, like, hey, this is what we're selling you.
Hmm.
Then you don't need to think, right? There's something. I come from a tech background as well, and I
Yeah.
think we talked about this before, Barrett, which is my specialty is in user experience, and so part of that is cognitive overload, right? So it's like going to a slot machine, right? Slot machines, you don't have to think. You just pull the lever, it just keeps going down. That's exactly what you want to do. That's why social media apps, dating apps are so successful, is because it's a dopamine addiction. And so, how do you make it so easy for people to access your website or your landing pages where they don't have to think? That's going to be helping you with your conversion rate. The less thinking they do, the more buying they're going to do.
And that makes sense. So let's think. I don't like to do a lot of thinking myself, and I think I'm in the majority on that one. So I want to, before we wrap up here, I want to please have you tell me, like, what's a website where people can reach you at, Alan?
Honestly, right now I'm going through like this rebranding structure.
Okay.
And I was just on a call with a friend
Is it
about
best
this.
on LinkedIn?
Best on LinkedIn to reach me
Okay.
right now.
Okay.
And if you are interested in website reviews, I do them as well. So send over your websites in my DMs. I'll take a look at them. But otherwise, LinkedIn is the best place, or you can email me as well.
Okay, okay, and guys, if you're watching this, a lot of you are watching on LinkedIn, so you can see there. You can see his LinkedIn there. So just got him on LinkedIn. It's real easy to do. And everyone else, please leave comments, leave questions. I definitely recommend reaching out to Alan. That's probably the best thing to do. But make sure you do that, and also share anything that you got out of Media Boss Live today here with Alan Shea. Alan, I want to leave you with any last comments or advice for people before we wrap up.
Oh, advice. Interesting. I think going back to what I was saying earlier at the beginning is that we're heading into an age or an era where personal branding really matters. And we're seeing that more and more as the tech layoffs are coming with the AI. And so, how do you position yourself so that you're at a better advantage, and how do you stand out is very important. And so, everything that we've chatted about during this live stream, personal branding and content are going to be what separates you from Bob down the road. And so that's what I would recommend people start doing, whether it's commenting on LinkedIn, posting on LinkedIn, or heck, even get on TikTok and start dancing. Like, get onto that.
You don't really want to see that, but anyway, Alan Shea, I want to thank you so much for joining me here on Media Boss Live. I need to get to New Mexico. I mean, not New Mexico, Mexico City to see you. Not New Mexico. I need to go there too. But I need to get to Mexico City to come see you. And will I see you at Podfest?
You know what? I was just debating that last night, so let me get back to you on that.
Okay. All right. Well, at any rate, man, I thank you for joining me. Everybody, reach out to Alan, please. Please do that as soon as possible. So, everybody, thank you for joining me here on Media Boss Live. As I always say before we leave, remember, you are someone special because you are God's vessel. Everybody, take care.